Hello, children, welcome back. Today we'll look into the second chapter of Class 8 Oxford New Pathways, A Most Important Person. This is coming under section 2. Now, if you had looked in the first chapter, my big brother, it is about a bonding relationship between siblings, between brothers. If you look into this present chapter, Most Important Person, this is also about bonding, but this bonding is not between siblings, it is between friends. And the title of the chapter, if you look at it, it says most important person. Now, if I ask you who's your most important person or people in your life, you might say parents, teachers, God, and all that. But this title is very, very apt for this chapter because a particular person called Miss Lucy, she came across an individual, in fact, a little boy called Chester Chilton. And it was this little boy who made the difference in Miss Lucy's life. Miss Lucy was pretty old and Chester was very, very young. So there was a lot of age difference or age gap between both of them. As you go across the chapter, you will know the age difference and you'll be surprised to see that this little boy who's so young made a deep, lasting impression in the mind of this person called Miss Lucy. So here there's a bonding, there's a relationship, a close friendship which exists between friends. But then let me ask you a question. How do you select your friends? You select your friends depending upon the same likes you have, your age group, and I think this is the two most important criteria. But here you find in this story, Chester Chilton and Miss Lucy, there are a lot of difference in their age, but still they make good friends. So that is it. How he was able to change the life of Miss Lucy, and hence how he has become the most important person in her life. Now let's look into this chapter. So this friendship, it teaches us a takeaway from this chapter is that there is no age bar for friendship. Just like how there is no age bar for learning or to become literate, in the same manner this lesson tells us that there's no age bar for friendship. Now let's look into the chapter. So page number 22, it says the first page. The first para says the livery chauffeur. So here the person is wearing a uniform. He is the driver of Miss Lucy. Arthur. So usually people who wear uniforms, the drivers who put on uniforms. Where do you find such kind of drivers who put on uniforms? Either they belong to politicians or government officials or such kind of people who are very important in the society or in the government. So in the same manner here. So we can understand right from the first line itself that Miss Lucy was an important person in the society. She was a titular head of the society. So she had a driver, and this driver was the person who used to take her along to the different places. And this particular time, the driver was with her and he looked after Miss Lucy. So the driver knew that it was during this time of Christmas that Miss Lucy felt very lonely, alone. The driver knew that. And the second paragraph says that the Christmas trimmings daunted Miss Lucy. Daunted means frightened her, saddened her, troubled her. Christmas trimmings, all the Christmas decorations and everything across the town, across the country troubled her. Because if you see in this chapter, every house on the boulevard showed the splendor of the glittering Christmas. But Miss Lucy Quinn was lonely. So the entire town was celebrating Christmas, the place where she was staying, boulevard. So usually what do we do on Christmas? We are so busy during Christmas time. We decorate our homes, our Christmas trees, our cribs, and we put on the star, we light up our house, we bake goodies, Christmas goodies at home so that we can share it to our neighbors and friends. So Christmas is a time of happiness and happiness and fun. But here you find that Miss Lucy was very saddened. She was very unhappy. She was feeling very lonely. Why was she lonely? Because she did not have people whom she could go across and visit. She did not have family members with whom she could relate to. She did not have anyone visiting her home. And she says, in this chapter, she says, in this second paragraph itself, she endured her loneliness with composure. But at Christmas time, it came upon her like an illness. So here she says, endured, suffered, or she bore it all. Throughout the year, she was definitely lonely. But then, throughout the year, she did not find any problem. Composure, she was very calm. She was in control of every situation. But during Christmas, she could not remain in control of herself. Sadness came over her. And this sadness, this loneliness that comes over her or that came upon her is referred to as an illness. It came upon her. It refers to the loneliness that came upon Miss Lucy. And our author here, Margaret Weymouth Jackson, describes this loneliness as an illness. Okay, then in the next para, Miss Lucy tells us about her childhood. She says that she had good parents who were kind and loving, and she had a very, very happy childhood. She had an older sister called Agatha. Okay, and during their childhood times, they had certain rules and regulations that had to be obeyed at home. What was that? They were brought up on the fixed idea that there was only a group of people in the city whom they could associate with. So, during her parents' time and they were growing up as children, they could not mingle with everyone in the society. They were allowed to mix only with few group of people. Okay. And they were not allowed to go to the homes of everyone. Almost it's like that even now. Even at home, our parents also, they don't allow us to go to any Tom, Dick and Harry's house. Those people or those families whom our parents know and who are our family friends, only to those houses we're allowed to go. So in the same manner, Miss Lucy also was brought up in that kind of an atmosphere where her parents allowed her to go and visit only few people, and they could associate, they could mingle only with few people. Okay, but now what has happened? After some time, her parents had died, parents expired. So they had grown up now. So Lucy's sister Agatha, she got married and they grew up. But after some time, we find that Agatha and her husband also died. So now you understand the reason why she says she was feeling very lonely. She also was quite old now. Lucy also was grown up. She was quite old. But then she did not have anyone, no family, no parents, no sister, no one with whom she could relate. Imagine such an idea we all can understand, because nowadays during the pandemic we read the news where a lot of children have been rendered homeless, and we can understand the feeling when we don't have parents or sisters or friends to whom we can interact with. So that was why the first paragraph says Christmas made her very lonely, because Christmas was the time she remembered more about her family, and she did not have parents, she did not have a sister, she did not even have close friends with whom she could celebrate Christmas with. And it says here, all her friends now, they were grown up. So Lucy did not have any communication with her friends. She had lost touch with all of them. And some of them, because they were old, they had also died. Okay. That is why she says there was nobody there and there was no one at all who cared. And so Lucy was a very shy person by nature. Timid means shy. She was a very shy person by nature. So you can say that she was an introvert. Who's an introvert? A person who's very shy, does not make friends quickly, and who does not communicate with everyone. So she was very timid. She was shy and protected in the sense, during her parents' time, they had a family where her parents and her sister were there, and they were very secure, they were protected. But now none of them were there, and she felt as if nobody cared for her. And the society, the town went on, moved briskly. The society of the town moved briskly without, society of the town moved briskly means what? Briskly, at a fast pace. See, the society or the town or the country does not care for anyone. Whether anybody dies or whether anybody is living, life has to go on. So her society where she was living in moved on very quickly. And now, unlike her times where she knew the people during her parents' days, but now, after many, many years, the town or the society had all new people. Strange names. Strange names refers to those people whom she did not know, new people in the town or in the locality. And then the last para on that page tells us about Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, the evening before Christmas. What happened? She tells us she came across something. She was walking down home on the street and she was wishing for something. What was that she was wishing for? She was wishing for an event that might hurl her out of this world. So, Lucy was very lonely and she was always looking for something that would change her life. Hurl her out of this world means that she even wanted to be taken out of this world because she was so lonely. She had no family to celebrate Christmas with. So she wished for a calamity that could even end her life. So she was thinking like this and she was walking down the street. Suddenly, she saw something right in front of her eyes. What was that? She saw a fight, a very terrible fight, violent fight. And this fight was between three boys, two grown-up boys and a younger boy. This boy was very young. He was fighting very, very aggressively like a wild cat. But then he was being overcome naturally. We know that if people who are older to us and the younger ones fight with them, it is always the older boys who would win. So because the older ones are more strong and powerful and healthy. So this boy was literally getting defeated. The bigger boys were taking advantage. So that is in the first page. The next page says, Lucy looked around and there was nobody to save this boy. She feared that this boy might be killed. So very quickly, what did Miss Lucy do? She raised her umbrella and she whacked the boys, the bigger boys. So the bigger boys ran away howling. Okay, and this little boy was saved. So what happened? Now, the next paragraph tells us that Miss Lucy was very upset. Why was Miss Lucy upset? She was so upset because she had never hurt or harmed anyone in her life. And what did she do this time? She beat the boys with her umbrella. And she pulled herself together and resumed her walk. Okay, so she just took control of herself and she started walking. So this little boy whom she saved reached up to her and put his hand in hers and he thanked her. And he said, you saved me, I know how you feel. And this little boy is so innocent, he's so talkative. He's an extrovert, he makes friends very quickly. He says, and he says that he knew how Miss Lucy felt saving him because once this little boy had saved a cat and he was feeling so proud about it. And then in the next paragraph, this boy explains the reason why he was fighting with the older boys. And what was the reason he says? He says that it was Christmas time and we all know children get gifts. Okay, so this little boy was observing the house of a particular girl who lived there in the same town. And this girl's Christmas present was left on the porch. Okay, and this boy was standing guard so that nobody would take it away. And this little boy found that these two older boys, they were coming to steal the present of this little girl. Hence, he started fighting with the boys. So that was the reason he told Miss Lucy. So next paragraph, Miss Lucy turns to the boy and she finds that he is a very healthy child. His face is round and his eyes are blue. So a healthy child, that means he has a family, he has parents and he is taken care of. And his speech also was very clear. He was talking very clearly. And then Miss Lucy tells the boy in a very shy manner not to fight on the street. And then they were talking and walking and suddenly Miss Lucy realized that they had come to her home. And she says, she stopped and explained, this is my house. And she says, this house of hers reached so quickly. Why? Why did she feel that she reached her home quickly? Because there was someone to give her company walking. She was not walking alone. This little boy, Chester, was there to give her company. When she was walking, she reached her home very quickly. So Lucy invited the little boy in and They went in, they sat, and she told her maid Mitzi to give them tea. Now, she took Chester into the parlor. Now, parlor is the place where we receive our guests. We also call it the living room or the drawing room or the parlor. Parlor, we are not talking about beauty parlors or those kind of things. The place where we receive guests. Parlor. Okay. So they sat and had tea together. And in your next paragraph, in the next page, you find that this little boy was looking around Miss Lucy's house, and suddenly he asks a question where her Christmas tree was. And Miss Lucy says she did not put up the tree. And then this little boy again starts talking to her. He's very talkative, he's very good in communication, very good at making friends. Okay, he was not shy at all. And then suddenly he says that he would come and see her tree tomorrow with a vivid smile, with a bright smile. So this boy is very good in making friends. And Miss Lucy never celebrates Christmas. So this little boy said that he would come and see her tree the next day. Miss Lucy agreed, and she said she would put up the tree tomorrow. So you can understand here that just for the sake of this little boy, Miss Lucy decided to put up the Christmas tree. In all her life, after her parents' death, she had not done so. Then this boy told her that he would come early. He assured her, he promised her. And then he also encourages her, he motivates her by saying that he knows that she would have the best tree in the world. Okay, so by the time the maid Mitzi came and gave tea to both of them and also chocolate, then again they started talking, and Chester says, "My mother says," he began. Miss Lucy felt a vague disappointment. She didn't know why. "Oh, you have a mother?" she said. Now this boy started talking about his mother. And why do you think Miss Lucy was disappointed? Miss Lucy was disappointed because she was thinking about her mother. She did not have parents. So suddenly she asks a question whether he had a mother. Naturally, this boy was so surprised. He was looking astonished. He says, "Yes." He replied that he had a mother. Now he tells us in the next paragraph about his family. So he says that he had a father, a mother, he had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and also a little baby called Mary. Okay, so this is a family of 8. Chester himself, his mother, father, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and also a little baby called Mary. Okay, and then he describes about his baby sister, and he says she causes a lot of trouble. And what is the trouble he's talking about? He says that she eats of all those things, okay, that is on the tree, because this baby thinks that it is uneatable. And we all know little babies, anything they get on their hands, they put in their mouth. Okay, but then this boy says that they all like his baby sister very much. Okay, and then he also offers to bring this baby sister over for Miss Lucy to see. So you see how quickly this boy has developed a friendship, and all the loneliness of Miss Lucy is gone. So then it was getting dark now, and we know in the previous page that he had permission only to stay till dark, and he couldn't stay beyond that because his parents maybe would have put a rule in the house that he should be getting back home before it gets dark. So he said he would have to leave now. And then Lucy says Chester hadn't even told her name. So she asked him where he lived, and he replied that his name was Chester Chilton, and he lived on Basalt 1028. That was his address. And Miss Lucy knew this Basalt Street. She says that it was a very, very crowded street near Boulevard. Then he reminded her that he would come the next day morning to see the Christmas tree. So that was it. That was the first time Chester visited Lucy's house, and it was the first time after many, many years somebody had visited Miss Lucy. So here you find that Chester took the initiative to visit Miss Lucy. Miss Lucy did not invite him. He took the initiative. Okay. Then after the boy left, Miss Lucy calls her driver, chauffeur, Arthur. Arthur is the name of her driver, and she tells him that she would want to go out and buy a Christmas tree. Okay. Now look at the change that is coming over Lucy. So Lucy smiled, and she knew that that boy Chester would expect her to put up something very, very good. Okay, so she wanted to just go and choose the tree herself because she wanted it to be the best tree. She didn't want to disappoint this little boy. So it says in the next para that it was very, very crowded in the market. We all know during any festival time how crowded the market is. So they searched about and they found a tree, and she also brought boxes of ornaments, that is all decorations to buy the tree. And then suddenly she asked Arthur what gift to purchase for a boy who was 7 years old, okay, who likes to fight, and for his baby sister who likes to eat Christmas ornaments. She was asking suggestions from Arthur. And then what did Arthur say? Arthur thought for a moment and said that he would buy him boxing gloves because this boy liked to fight. Solemn as an owl. Solemn as an owl tells us that this Arthur is very, very serious. Okay, he is a very serious person. He does not crack jokes much, and as solemn as an owl. So there's a literary device there. And then he says he'd buy her some candy canes for the little baby sister. He would buy some candy canes. Candy canes means chocolates. Okay, so now where do they get the boxing gloves? They got the boxing gloves from a sporting goods store. Sports goods, we get all these sports goods in a particular store. So they went there and bought it. Then they also bought candies for the little baby. And they came back to the place where they had parked their car. And what happened? When they came back to the place where they had parked their car, what had happened? The tires were marked with chalk and they had been given a ticket. So fine, they were fined. Okay. What is a ticket? That is a notice issued by the police. Which police? The motor vehicle officer. Okay. Why? Now Miss Lucy's car was parked in the wrong place. Arthur had parked the car at the wrong place. Okay. And Arthur was very upset. He's been driving the car for many, many years and not ever once was he fined by a police. So then Arthur says that he would call Mr. Henderson, the family lawyer, to help them out in this situation. But Miss Lucy was against that. Miss Lucy said very, very firmly and clearly that she would pay the fine. So we know that even though Miss Lucy was an important person in the society there, she decided to pay the fine. She did not evade. She did not do any kind of unwanted things not to pay the fine. So this shows that she is a role model. She is a person with a lot of values, okay, that she would pay the fine. She was a very high leader in the society, and maybe she could have avoided the fine by calling her family lawyer Henderson, but she never agreed. She said that it was her responsibility to pay the fine.